You guys ready? Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Rally Caps, a podcast for the creative entrepreneur building a business for the long haul.
Today, we're joined by Todd Balsley, owner of Clever Supply Co. based out of Louisville, Kentucky. Todd began his career in the creative world in 2010 as a wedding photographer. 6 years in, he realized that it might not be the calling for him, so he took a year to reevaluate where his life was headed. By 2017, his newfound hobby of leatherworking became an obsession that drove him to eventually launch a very successful camera strap Kickstarter campaign in 2019, of which Stephen was the 17th backer. And as of May 2021, Todd and his wife Megan have taken Clever Supply as their full-time job. In his downtime, you can find Todd crushing miles on Strava, spending time with Megan and his two boys, and reposting photos of the hipsters who use his camera straps on their Leica M6.
Is all of that correct, Todd?
Well, Eric and Steven, I've listened to almost every one of these episodes, and I think this is the first time that it's actually all correct.
We did it! We did one that was right!
Okay. Yeah. We didn't overemphasize anything.
Nothing overemphasized at all.
But we are sitting in your living room right now.
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of shooting a commercial for you.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. This is day 2 of the commercial, and give them a little explanation of like your workspace and what that is and where we've been shooting and all that stuff.
Yeah. So we're here at the house, and the wall that you cannot see leads right to my garage, and the garage is a single car garage, so it's a pretty small, modest space, but it's where everything for Clever Supply operates. So we cut, stitch, and ship all the straps right from the garage.
Amazing. That's incredible.
If you see me on my phone, it's just my notes. Because if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not texting someone, I promise.
He's texting me.
But
what do we say next?
Stephen, ask the next question.
Todd, you just mentioned the fact that you work out of your garage and make all of these camera straps by hand and ship them all from where you live, and that's incredible. It's amazing to Eric and I both that you're making a physical product and doing all of this so on your own, and by that I mean you and your wife Megan, but it's so cool that you're up to that and just making it work with like a physical product, which I feel like is a lot harder for the traditional solo entrepreneur working at home. I think it's often very like digital, it's photography, it's filmmaking, but you guys are tackling physical products head on, and that's really admirable, honestly. I'm very curious to hear, because you're a photographer yourself, you started making camera straps. Were you doing that to meet a need in an industry that you were kind of seeing a hole in, or what inspired camera straps?
Yeah, it's a great question. So really, I kind of had a background in wedding photography, as you all mentioned earlier, and all throughout that journey, I kind of just noticed that I kind of got to a point where I was burnt out. I'll say that as first, and being burnt out, I would look at my camera as I was walking out the door, and I was a photographer in the family, kind of expected to bring the camera to family events, and I just look at it and just like, nah, I don't want to. And I did get a camera strap actually from my sister that she bought me once as a gift, and I loved it. It was a leather camera strap, really thin, and Maru, the Circle brand, I think they have changed brands, but it was, shout out to them. But when I put it on my camera, I just immediately just loved the fact that I had something more unique, more personalized on my camera, and it just kind of made me want to carry my camera more. Just kind of having something a little more special. So when I started developing, I started out as a leather worker that was making bags and not camera stuff, but bags that were like just totes or wallets, just a variety of accessories, like a lot of leather workers that you might see on the internet. And I just decided that I wanted to try to make a camera strap for myself, something that I would enjoy. And a lot of leather goods don't feel great or comfortable right out of the gate. They feel a little tough. You kind of got to break them in. And so I wanted to find something that felt comfortable, that I enjoyed using. And so kind of long-winded answer there, but that was kind of the overall kind of motivation, was something that I enjoyed, that I was inspired, that helped inspire me to shoot, but also felt comfortable. I came from the wedding industry, so I knew what it felt like to wear a camera all day. I wanted something that felt good, that I could wear all day. And so coming up with something that I felt, it was really solving a need for myself, was probably the one sentence answer.
I love that. And you mentioned comfort kind of right out of the gate. Is that because of design, because of materials? Like what was your process in kind of finding that balance of form and function?
Yeah, I mean, you all shoot weddings, and a lot of these people listening online are wedding photographers. So weddings is a grind, right? So it's like, comes down to the shoes you're wearing, the clothes you're wearing. Everything that you choose to wear potentially affects whether your body feels like crap at the end of the day or not, whether you've been doing squats leading up to wedding season or not, really impacts how you feel. And so something really, comfortable around my neck was really key, because it's just on me all day, and you got the heavier lenses and stuff like that. It just starts to bear down. And so comfort was super important to me right out of the gate, just because of that factor. Yeah, I wanted it to feel good all day and to enjoy that.
Love it.
Steven's so excited about the idea of us making physical products, so he's just really excited to talk to you today, and I am as well. But Steven's like extra super excited.
Yes.
What do you have in mind? What do you have in mind?
Are we even allowed to sneak peek it?
I mean, just abstract.
I think we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all going to be fairly.
We have talked about it.
We've mentioned it, I think, on an Extra Innings episode, but we can talk about it more publicly now, because once we're in Chicago, it's going to be like off to the races with all that stuff. But we're more so looking just to make merch for rally caps. So it's less of original invention, more so kind of like figuring out what places we want to source from in order to make a really good end product that kind of reflects the rally caps vibe, if you will, or kind of like our overall aesthetic, that like vintage baseball kind of feeling.
That's awesome.
But it's different than a lot of other clothing brands or physical product brands, because a lot of physical product brands launch a product and then do their marketing, and we've done our marketing first, and then we're going to launch a product, and we don't know if it's just, we don't want a product that we produce to be just like only if you listen to the podcast, but something that could be widely applicable to anybody and everybody. Yeah. And it's like, it's awesome that it's part of the podcast, but it could go way outside of that as well. Yeah. But then the podcast becomes all meta, because then we talk about our small business that's actually like
a business
completely separated from our podcast.
Like an actual business.
And the more people that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So like, thanks for giving us a mentor session today.
I love it. That's awesome.
That's why we're doing this in the first place.
Psych.
Love it. It's great. I love it. Yeah. Happy to.
So with that,
happy to help.
What challenges do you face? But seriously, what challenges do you face? Because I was even looking at your reviews when you were showing me today, like seeing reviews from Canada and China and like all over the world.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges do you face in the shipping process and dealing with people like all around the world?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just talking homegrown. Like you're shipping everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. So I would say probably like 20 to 30% of our sales are international, which is awesome. A lot of Canada. Canada loves their leather goods. Shout out Canada.
Nice.
But I mean, Europe, Asia, you name it. Like, I would love to do like a figure of like where, like every country that I have a strap, that I've shipped a strap to at some time. The challenging thing, so my products are pretty lightweight, I can pretty much if you buy just one strap, it's like 4 ounces, in a mailer, and that works out really well because it's, $3 to ship, $3.50 to ship in the United States, pretty much $10 to ship to Canada. And I can pretty much ship anywhere USPS, for $15, all these things. So that's great, but there's a challenge there, because USPS doesn't really have great like tracking or just much to follow the product journey as it ships once it leaves borders. And so that cheap price tag comes with a cost because the estimated time of arrival to somewhere like, we'll just say middle of Europe, because the UK is not too bad, but middle of Europe, it could be quoted at 7 to 21 days, which is
Cool.
just like,
That's a huge
that's
range.
a wide range. Yeah. And I'll get people, and it's like business days too, mind you. So, tack on a few extra days. So I'll get customers reaching out to me after 2 weeks and they're like, it shipped. It says it was, made it to Austria and it hasn't left Austria for like 5 days. But that's just, there's not really tracking. It's just like information that you get, like very limited. And so shipping barriers is pretty much what I'm getting at. Because then to go to UPS, it could cost me like anywhere from like $80 to ship to Australia for a 4-ounce strap.
Oh my gosh.
To, $30 in the United States if people want it like in like a day or two. And so there's just like a range there. And so people will pay that too. I've got some customers that really want the product enough to, they will just go ahead and pay for UPS and pay an extra $40, $50 on top of a camera strap that's averaging $100 or more. And so that's an honor when I see those come through. But that's definitely one of the biggest challenges, is just shipping internationally and just kind of figuring out, streamlining that, as well as like, how do you manage it when it doesn't go well or go right? But yeah, that's one of the challenges.
So how are you charging for shipping? You're just doing a flat rate on every order, and then if they want expedited or somewhere crazy, you have to uniquely add the shipping cost?
Yeah, so I use, back up just a little bit, I'll say I use Shopify for my store. So that's just like a good one to look into. It's obviously one of the bigger platforms to open up a store. And there's a couple different ways you can set up a flat rate. So I do have a flat rate for the United States, and that's just a $5 flat rate. So that usually gets the shipping cost down, but then there's costs of shipping and handling. You got the materials of the mailers, and those add up, and the packaging and stuff like that. So the $5 covers that. And then pretty much what I do is I dial in with the carriers to pretty much calculate the shipping based on the address. So there's that technology in there where they plug in their address for shipping, and then USPS, UPS will calculate the shipping options, and they can choose which one they want.
Okay.
All in your store online?
All in the store.
And you guys pack all of that by hand too. Like, you're the ones from start to finish. You're making it, you're packing it, you're bringing it to the post office, and then getting it out to the world.
Yes, exactly how you described it. Yep.
Amazing. On the topic of shipping on the whole, also, there's the reverse side of it too, where you're ordering, products, or not products, but the actual materials and raw materials to make those things, and the equipment to make those things too. And I know that you recently actually had a bit of a struggle with getting, I think, I'm going to butcher the name, but it was like a hydraulic press or some kind of...
You pretty much got it. Yeah, it's a clicker press.
Clicker press, that's it.
Yeah, it's a hydraulic clicker press.
What was that like, just kind of dealing with such a... I mean, even just looking at the Instagram stories that you posted about it, I was like, man, that looks like the biggest headache in the world.
I kept it tame.
I'm glad you're here, because I've already heard all the stories the past 24 hours.
Yeah. So it was a nightmare.
Yep.
So a little bit of context. Just we went full time in the end of May, and I just had a month leading up. I ordered this machine in March. So I'm going to throw out a lot of the little timelines here, just to kind of paint the picture. Ordered this machine in March. It came from China by ship, then by rail from California to Chicago, and then from Chicago to me. And it probably, so at least two trucks. Yeah. At least two trucks. And when it arrived, we could probably share pictures at some point if people want to see. It arrived totally mutilated. The machine is the weight of a refrigerator. It's 800 pounds. Jeez, so you can't lift it with you have to at least have 3 people to even move it.
You were going to put that in the garage?
Yeah, it's going to be in the garage.
That thing is 800
with the pallet
pounds.
jack and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really heavy.
What's the square footage on it though? The footprint?
It's about 30 inches wide, probably 20 inches deep. So it'll fit in that spot.
But 800
that is so dense.
Just solid
That's
metal.
Insane.
Solid metal. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's about the size of a fridge footprint.
Yeah, but just not as tall, pretty much.
Okay.
I'll be able to stand at it, like a standing desk, pretty much. And so anyways, it arrived June 30th. So March I ordered it, June 30th it arrived completely. We open up the truck and it's just like fallen over on the side of the truck. And we get like a couple neighbors to help with me with the truck driver, like lift it back up, and broken cables. Like this thing is like solid, like cast iron pretty much. And the cast iron was just all mutilated and stuff like that. And the driver just looked at me. He's like, I saw this on the dock and I almost didn't bring it to you. It's like, this is what it looked like when I got it today. And I was like, okay.
Couldn't have made a phone
And I
call.
was like, he's like, you probably want to reject it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to reject it.
You
and
probably
so
want to reject this.
Yes.
So we reject it. And I'm going to try to keep this story somewhat streamlined, but essentially communicate with the supplier in China, and they want to just send me some parts to fix it, which is not great. I just, the biggest thing is like really for that is like one day I'll probably want to resell it, and like the resale value just totally tanks if it just looks like a piece of garbage from the get-go. And so I ended up applying for a refund through the service that I purchased it through, and that didn't work out because they determined the carrier was responsible, but there's multiple carriers involved here. So which carrier is it? So there's a claim filed. That's where we're at now. There's a claim filed for the damage report, and the latest I have is it can take 3 to 6 months, and that was within like the last week. I am going to shout out to someone though, because a friend of mine who's not even on social media, the best man in my wedding, Robbie, he's followed my story all along ever since we started like this is a hobby, and just, he heard about the developments of how it was growing and just where it was taking off. I see him every year in Florida when we go to visit, and he decided that he wanted to pony up and like just pay for the next machine for me to get one here in the US that I can have. It's going to be here next week. And it will be delivered next week, but he fronted me the money and just believes in what we're doing. And that was just like a huge, unexpected answer to prayer, we'll say, because the last thing I'll say on this, and I'll kind of take a breath, is we had some wholesale orders. We had just started a wholesale account. We had a wholesale order that was pending on this machine arriving. So I'd kind of been delaying it with this guy and saying, hey, it's expected here. I've waited so long for this. As soon as it comes, we're hitting the ground running with your order. And so to open that door and see it mutilated, it was a pretty big order too. And so luckily we were able to borrow some time on a local machine, and that helped us get through the wholesale order. So at the end of the day, we're good, but it was definitely a hardship and something that we kind of just had to take one step at a time and figure out how to navigate, and hopefully we'll get our money back one day for the mutilated machine.
Oh my goodness. Hopefully in 2021. Maybe that's insane, man. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, and thankfully we're in a position where the machinery and the equipment we have now, like 90% of how we've built the business has been built on what we have currently.
Yeah.
And so thankfully the core of our business is fine. We were just starting to introduce some new products, some bigger products. So that meant a bigger table size to click and stuff, and better efficiency as we were
Welcome to a
scaling.
new chapter.
Yeah. And
So how much equity does Robbie have now?
yeah.
Like a Shark Tank episode?
Can be if you want to match it.
Hello, I'm Mr. Wonderful. Hey, it's me, Shark Cuban. I'm here to invest in your company. That's insane. Okay, you did just mention new products and some bigger products and stuff, though. Are there any new products that you haven't announced yet, or that are in development that you could give us a little teaser on?
Happy to share. Yeah, totally. So if you look at as of the time we're recording this episode, if you look at my website now, it's all camera straps. So we are a business that is for the photographer. We make leather goods that help you with your photography. So it's camera straps and lots of different styles. And as I've been thinking about how we grow and how we expand, we want to always serve the photographer. That is what I want our core business to always identify with. And but how do we introduce more products. Like we don't want to have just like a million camera straps. We already have quite a few options. And so when you think about a shoot, what is it that you do, Steven, when you are done with your shoot and you get home? Can you just tell me quickly what it is?
First thing I do is back up my photos.
Back up your photos. So you're sitting at your desk, right? So we're going to introduce some products that are not revolutionary. Other people are doing these, but they're going to be for your desk. And the idea is like the photographer, so far the business has been about honoring the work that you're doing out on the field. So then like, since you're spending so much time at your desk, how do we honor that space there that you have by helping you just enjoy being there? So desk pads, leather desk pads, mouse pads. We already have some coasters. I want to introduce a couple other products that we do not make as well. And so Ugmonk is a brand that I've admired and looked up to for years. Jeff at Ugmonk, and I've kind of started to get to know him, and I would like to carry some of his stuff. He has a really great desk organizer product. He also has a note-taking kind of like app, or not app, sorry. Take it from an app and actually move it to analog. That's what's called analog, but it's taking notes and tracking your to-dos. And he developed a beautiful system that sits on your desk for that. And so we're kind of just starting to think more about the space that photographers inhabit when they're not on the field, and how do we kind of serve that in little ways. But then at the end of the day, you'll look at it and be like, well, the person that isn't a photographer that works in an office, they could also have those products and enjoy them too. And that's kind of the idea. Is so like we want to be able to expose our brand to people that aren't photographers while still trying to keep a core focus on
philosophy,
the artists.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool to see in plenty of ways how you could expand your business. And it's just at the point you're at now with being full-time and jumping to full-time in May, you just kind of have the option now. It's like, do we want to just keep this kind of homegrown? Do we want to keep it simple, or do you see expanding into something much bigger? You're talking about a business that could literally be doing millions in sales eventually, and having a couple dozen employees. And so what are your thoughts on it? Huh?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being so intimidating.
No, I mean, and just kind of the questions like, what are my thoughts on like scaling and just kind of growing? Yeah. So, the way I've looked at it, I kind of got this question by my grandma. So thanks, Grandma. No, I literally saw her a couple weeks ago. And she asked me, so like, what's next? Like, what's your plan? And like, what's your like 5-year goal kind of thing? And like,
nice. That's a great
she's
grandma.
asking me these questions because she is genuinely inquisitive. That's one thing I love about her so much, but super inquisitive, super just interested. But I just told her, I was like, right now I kind of have a 6-month plan. And that is kind of some of the stuff I just told you, introducing some more products. There's another camera strap I want to launch, maybe a camera bag in 2021. But right now it's been about, up until this point, my life was working a full-time job, having the family routine in the evenings, and then doing the clever work after the kids were in bed. So like 8 o'clock to like 11 o'clock at night. And it got to a point where it was just like, this isn't happening. We can't do this anymore. I mean, I was working like weekends and stuff. And so now that I'm full time, I haven't really had enough time to really feel what that's like to fully scale just with my capacity. And then we've been on summer break, and so Megan's been less available. So it's really just been me. And then once school starts, Megan's going to be much more available. And so the two of us will then be able to work. And so it's just kind of, I think it's just the next 6 months is like finding our rhythm. Where are we able to scale? Are we able to ramp up? Are we able to take on larger wholesale orders, or maybe custom work for, like Fujifilm, shout out, if you want some custom stuff. But like, if we got an order though for like 100 straps, like would we be able to handle that between the two of us? And just starting to feel what that's like, because when I was working 3 hours a day at my old job, no, we would have just cried because our order volume was already hard enough to keep up with, and then taking on bigger volume. So to answer your question, we definitely want to scale. I think maybe 2021 might be the year where we bring on another part-time employee, apart from Megan being my partner. And just kind of seeing what that looks like and starting to introduce someone else into the process and defining where we can give them more work to do. And then
it's so interesting to see you entertaining that idea while I have embarked kind of on that journey in the creative field, because I've struggled for a while to like find people to fit those roles in the creative world because it's kind of so abstract and artistic. Shout out Braxton, he's sitting over there.
Shout out Braxton.
But it almost feels like in a tactile physical space, the training process might be a lot more rhythmic and easy to like do that, not discrediting the quality or the artistic nature of your product, but yeah, it's almost like that doesn't feel as intimidating as trying to find someone creatively.
Yeah, I think there's just like a lot with what we do. I mean, it's like we can sit down with someone. We have a mutual friend, Jenna, Austin and Jenna, we've had her help with some stitching, and that's just like one example. I mean, stitching takes such a large percentage of our time because we hand stitch everything, and that's just one thing that isn't super complicated. There is a method, and there's a technique that we follow and that we, a process, but it takes a couple run-throughs to get that right and coach someone through it, and then so that would just buy us a lot of time to kind of just even have someone helping us with stitching. So yeah, you're right. I think there's ways to break it down with what I'm doing to take simple things that do take time that have to be done repetitively, and then pass that on to someone.
But then you have quality assurance and having to figure out that you have to trust that person eventually, because you don't want to have eyes on it all of the time, and just trust that, the orders are going out and that it's up to your standard of quality.
100%.
Not having some like Creed from The Office doing quality assurance.
Exactly.
But I was cooking that one in my head for a while. So
you were just waiting to get to Creed.
Were you hydraulic clicking that one in your head, or?
Okay, I'm the dad here.
Wow.
Something people might overlook or might not know about Clever Supply is, and honestly, like such a genius business move that you did, was integrating Peak Design into your leather straps. So Peak Design already being a quick release system that so many people have, the little red circle tags that you see on people's cameras. You started stitching those into leather straps. Can you tell us how and why you decided to do that, and your relationship with Peak, and how like they feel about it, or if there was any like bad blood there because of competition or whatever?
For sure. Yeah. So when I started to develop the product that I wanted for myself, I was inspired by Peak Design from the very beginning. I thought they just nail it with the innovation. They're like the Apple of the photography world. They're just the tripod was one of their more recent ones, and like everybody that uses it just loves it. So the innovation was just really impressive, and I was inspired by the quick release, and I had developed my own. It had these little leather tags. Steven, you have one. You got an OG.
I love it, man.
And I was really proud of it, and you saw it works, you clip it on, clip it off. The only downside is I didn't have the R&D to develop something that wasn't like metal. So I had to use like hardware that was existing in the market. Most clips, things that you clip and latch, are metal. Photographers and metal usually, just typically very like anxiety inducing, scratching your Leica and stuff like that. And so I had a pretty good way of trying to avoid that, and I felt good about it. But when I launched the Kickstarter, I started just, grassroots, just dropping the Kickstarter link and trying to share the story on, different photography forums. And I got a lot of really interesting thoughts and feedback. And time again, I was just starting to hear, hey, have you thought about like including Peak Design's like stuff? And I said, well, in my head, I'm like, the first couple of times I'm like, well, yeah, this is meant to be like an alternative. And that was kind of like my first initial thought in my mind. But after seeing it multiple times, definitely a good handful of times I saw this in just different forums, I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? Maybe I just need to like give this a shot and try it. And so I will say this, I don't think I was necessarily the first one to attach a Peak Design clip to, to a leather strap, but I realized in that Kickstarter that there was an opportunity here just to see, like, listen to the market, see if these people that are asking are these isolated, or is there like something here? So within I think the second week of launching the Kickstarter, I announced an upgrade option, a reward upgrade option, where we would include the Peak Design hardware instead. So the goal there was to attract then people that were already bought into the ecosystem, and maybe that would draw more people in. Lots of people. Peak Design, if you know anything about them, they've built their whole business on Kickstarter. So I knew the Peak Design audience was there and close. It's just if they saw it and the stars aligned, I was hoping that maybe, things would really work out well. And so immediately after launching that update, it was an update that I shared with the backers and on the public page, it was like 20 or 30% of the customers just converted immediately.
Boom.
And I was like,
okay,
whoa. And, to be fair, if, anybody's out there wants to do due diligence and wants to look up, my Kickstarter at the time was not massive. I think we ended up fulfilling 70 or 80 orders. Some of them were multiple straps, some of them were single straps. So we're not talking about massive scale Peak Design who does like millions of, fulfillments and stuff like that. But for me, that was just enough validation because I was still so small that it was like, I was just trying to get a sale a day at that time. Like, you know what I mean? And so that was just like the goal. It was like, if I can get a sale a day, that's amazing. So the Kickstarter, that insight was just huge. And so fast forward after the Kickstarter was fulfilled, this was towards the end of the year. I just knew by the end of that year, that start of the new year, this was 2020, I was just going to shift it all over to Peak Design and just sunset my design that I still stand behind and super proud of. But the other flip side of the coin was their hardware was already ready to go and stitch, and I was manually producing each little tether, and each strap came with 4, and that was just like extra time, extra labor. The money also, like the hardware wasn't necessarily cheap to actually manufacture those myself. Right. So yeah.
Nice. And so as you've been spreading more awareness and getting these straps into the hands of more photographers, we've noticed some really high profile people using them, including actually the first guest on Rally Caps ever, Ben Heisch, a good friend of all of ours.
Ben
Heisch. Oh, that guy. Yeah. And then I've also even noticed like Peter McKinnon's editor, Kirk Lucas, was posting about it too. And I've seen some just really impressive people using these straps and really loving them too. And just admiring the build quality and the integration with the Peak hardware and all of this stuff. Are you actively seeking out ambassadors? Do you just try to get the product in people's hands to use it and test it out? Like, what's the process with spreading the word amongst like other photographers?
Yeah, good question. So definitely some awesome photographers that use our stuff, and we're super grateful to just have people that in general just love our stuff. And so really where I tapped into, this is just kind of an interesting story of just like me discovering influencer marketing in a way that worked. First of all, if you think of the photography community, we're a very referral based community, right?
Yeah.
It's like photographers are listening here, they're hearing stuff about other photographers, they're watching gear reviews from Benj, shout out Benj, you're the man. And they're looking for that next thing. They're looking for advice from the people that they look up to in the industry. And what I found, a Fuji X shooter found my work while I launched the Kickstarter, but he reached out to me directly, asked if we could get him one quick. And Jan Gonzalez, he's an amazing photographer, check him out. But he started sharing about it. And it was just like, I was starting to get hit up by people in the Philippines. This is where he's from. And I was like, oh my gosh, like people all of a sudden are like either checking out my stuff because I can see where the traffic's coming from, or they're purchasing. I was like sending stuff to the Philippines all of a sudden. I was like, wow, this is cool. Benj has been another great, just like friend of the brand and like super awesome and just like repping our stuff. And really what we found was we planted ourselves, like the product that we're making plants really well within that referral based culture, because we're already, as photographers, very receptive to getting advice on what's the gear,
People
what's
talk
the
about it.
presets to use, or whatever that is, what's the techniques. And so having other photographers that really love our products, that care to share about them genuinely and just like talk about them, has just proven to be incredible for us. And so we do have a couple affiliate partners. That was something that we started in October. I realize I'm kind of like in a catch-22 here. Like, I'm not actively seeking it, but if it's something, you know, if you're a listener and you're like super interested and you would like to talk about it, I would love to like hear from you. So, but not something that we're actively seeing like every customer. Like, we want, do you want to be an affiliate or anything like that? It's not like that type of scale of trying to grow it. But,
so you're saying I should reach out to you after we're done recording and we'll talk about it later.
Dude, just
Listen,
shoot
hear
me
me,
a
hear me,
text.
Rally strap.
Rally strap. Oh, maybe a Rally Caps camera strap.
Ooh,
that's interesting.
Rally straps is so good.
Interesting. Rally straps.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, I'm actually curious just because, Todd, you mentioned earlier that you're a longtime listener of the show. So you obviously know the struggles that we've gone through naming the show. And names obviously mean a lot to us. We're very particular about them. And we're curious where...
Slow burn, right?
was the
Slow burn.
Rest in peace, Slow Burn. We're curious where Clever Supply came from. What was the inspiration behind the name there?
Yeah. Oh, man. I haven't told this story in a while. This is good. So it has a lot of meaning, but it's really cheesy too. So I'll just set it up like that. So
Great.
My name is Todd, and the meaning like of my name is wise or clever like the fox.
Okay.
So
okay.
if you look at the
I know
logo,
this.
you'll see that there's a fox.
Okay.
And so it's like when you start to put it together, like, am I just saying it's like Todd Supply Co? But, no, but yeah, that's just something that I've always loved, the fox, because where my name kind of has that connection with
That's
the
very
fox,
cool.
and clever like the fox. And so,
It's not cheesy at all.
yeah. And so that's where we kind of built the brand name off of, and worked with an awesome designer, Tyler Deeb, to develop the logo, and just wanted something really minimal and simple. And so, but that's the name of it. Yeah. It's clever like the fox, and comes from my name.
I love it. I've been curious about that for years, since the moment I backed the Kickstarter. So that's actually a great answer.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to know that now.
Also, I was too infatuated with the rally strap idea that I forgot to talk about, like what we were doing here with like me coming on as an affiliate for the brand. I've been able to use the Peak Design integrated strap for, I don't know, it's been 4 or 5 months now.
Right. Yeah.
And absolutely love it. Carry it on my Leica now. I'm going to snag one for the Hassie to bring back as well.
Yeah.
And we're currently shooting this commercial, which we're really pumped about.
Yeah, so pumped.
And we came up with the script and refined it, and it was just really cool to hear more about your story. And yeah, it's also just really cool to hear the name and integrated into that. And it's very clear that you're someone who thinks deeply about the philosophy and the things that really matter about a business, as opposed to just shallow, superficial things. So just wanted to mention that I really appreciate that about your brand. And obviously we're going to have all of this stuff linked in the description if you're interested in checking out Clever Supply. But yeah, before I get too sappy and we start crying like a couple of sappy dads, I'm going to go ahead and kick off some batting practice.
All right.
Are you ready for it?
Let's go. Is this the...
You know what it is,
I
right?
know it's that. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the...
For those who don't know what batting practice is, this is where I fire off questions, and Todd is supposed to answer them as fast as he can. And if he doesn't, I'm going to move on to the next question and shame him for not answering the previous. Okay, here, you ready?
Let's do this. Full send.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Or fast. Okay. Favorite running shoe brand?
Nike.
How old is the HVAC in your home?
Like 3 years.
Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because he has electric cars.
Is pineapple okay on pizza?
Yes.
Oh, dream destination for glamping. Hurry.
Hawaii.
Oh, if you could have a sixth sense, what would it be? That was really hard. I'm so sorry. How often are you hydrated?
Oh, probably not as much as I should be.
Are you going to run a marathon?
I will probably run a marathon before I die.
So you're a dad strider.
I am a dad strider.
And do you need a pacer for your marathon?
I would love you to be my pacer for a
I
marathon.
okay.
Did I answer the next question? Sure.
This is my sneaky way of turning into your running
Do
coach.
this, baby. Let's do this. Dad Strides sponsor.
Shout out Dad Strides.
Todd, well done. I think you batted 10 for 10 or however many questions there actually were.
Yeah, that was pretty
well
good.
done, man.
It was close.
Yeah, 9 for 10. The sixth sense one was
That's
really
true.
hard.
That was hard.
For some reason,
The correct answer is seeing dead people.
That is. Duh.
I don't know why, but when you said sixth sense, I was like, oh, flying for sure. And I was like, wait, what?
I went to like invisibility. I started like. I started thinking superpowers.
Yeah.
A softball would have been a superpower. Sixth sense was the hardball.
Oh man. So Todd, to kind of wrap things up, we want to start asking our guests the same question at the end of every episode. And we want to kind of lean into our name a little bit and the spirit of the show. So on that note, looking back on your career, spanning back to 2010, even when you were starting as a wedding photographer, could you share with us one rally cap moment where you or your business faced a challenge or just kind of like an adverse circumstance that was especially difficult and that you really required you to muscle through it and double down and just kind of get through it, like throw your rally cap on and just do it?
That's good. I think honestly the Kickstarter, I didn't really say much about the Kickstarter being a challenge, but that was my first time doing anything at any type of scale. And it was one of those things where I recognized that there was a lot of work that was going to need to be done. There was going to be some sacrificing of some time, which I take very seriously when that's on the table in regards to the people being sacrificed, kind of like my family or people that I spend time with. And so that was one of those things where I think the rally, what I put on in regards to like the cap was, endurance, perseverance, just like seeing it through one step at a time and dealing with that, recognizing that there's stress and there's some anxiety maybe about like fulfilling all the orders and pleasing everyone and just making it all come together. But recognizing that like, you complete the journey by putting one foot in front of the other. And so in time, that same kind of analogy could have been used with the machine that we ran into. I trusted in the journey and in the process that this was going to work out with the machine, and I had no idea that happy ending was going to be my friend fronting some money. But we we're going on vacation right after it kind of happened, and it was just like really swirling around. And that's just my biggest thing, is just taking those big things in life and trying to break them down, whether that's a complex thing that you're solving or just a challenge that you don't know how to solve, and just kind of putting one foot in front of the other until you kind of just keep moving forward till you figure it out.
Boom.
Phenomenal answer.
Done. I love it.
Yep. I think there's something that's so noticeable about the machine situation is that you have a community of people around you, even talking about your neighbors coming to help you, like carry the broken thing, or put it upright to see if it was broken.
Yep.
That's a testament to, and outside of that as well, having more intentional conversations with you over, the past 2 days, you're connected to a lot of people. Like every time we bring someone up on Instagram, you're like, oh yeah, I talked to that person. Like, oh yeah, they're my friend. Like, oh, here's this thing, because my friend gives me a bunch of them. Like, check it out, and that's amazing, because you are wearing that moniker of community over competition too, because you even you look at Peak Design, you're like, oh, I was inspired by this, and it got you that that idea and the integration. And I'm sure you're having plenty of conversations with other people who are in your same realm. Even we talked about potentially having a conversation with someone about a next step for your business, right. Feeling some of that anxiety. This is just my public encouragement for you to go and have that conversation. But yeah, man, we just love being able to talk to you. Really appreciate your friendship. It was weird meeting you in person for the first time, because I was like, on the way here, I'm like, wait, we haven't seen each other in real life. I like had it in my head that we had already seen each other in real life, just
for sure.
with how much we've connected over online. And it just tends to be how some of these relationships go. But just feeling like we already know each other super well. So, like we said, if you haven't checked out any of Todd's stuff with Clever Supply Co., you can check it all out in the description, to his website and all of the stuff that they have available to purchase. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you could do us a favor and just hit us with a like. That was a weird way to say that. I'm sorry. And then subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed to the channel.
Yeah. And if you happen to be just listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your streaming service of choice, please leave us a review as well. That would be so helpful in pushing the show out to more and more people that would really benefit from hearing conversations like this one that we had with Todd.
And look out for our Kickstarter for the rally strap.
Oh, snap.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We will catch you in the next episode of Rally Caps.
Peace.